What's up, everyone? Welcome to the May 5th edition of FanDuel Tournament Plays presented by Prize Picks. I'm your host, Adam Scherer. You can follow me on Twitter at ShipMyMoneyDFS. And as a reminder, you get one free month of Awesemo plus Platinum when you sign up and make a deposit at Prize Picks. Be sure to use the code Awesemo to receive a 100% first deposit bonus up to $100. We have a 6-game MLB slate tonight, so not as big as usual, and it will drive ownership up a bit in the most popular spots. But it's still big enough. 6 games, there's still enough options where you can find some relatively low-owned options, and that's what we're going to take a look at tonight. Looking at 3 of the top tournament stacks and 3 of the top tournament pitchers on FanDuel. Starting with the top tournament stacks, the New York Mets are projected for 4% aggregate ownership. They have about an 8% chance of being the top scoring stack. They have a very difficult matchup tonight, going up against Aaron Nola in Philadelphia. Nola's been solid this season for the most part. 31.8% strikeout percentage, 2.49 xFIP. He has had some home run issues, but those are likely to go away as the year goes on. And he's also historically been better in Philadelphia than on the road, despite the fact that it's a favorable hitter's park. But the nice thing about taking the Mets about Nola, there's actually a couple of things to like here. One, on their own merits, they're still projected to be a bit under-owned here. As I mentioned before, they've been very good offensively this year with a 118 WRC+. But also, you get a pitcher like Nola is going to pick up ownership. Right now on FanDuel, we have him projected for about 26.5% ownership. So on the relatively infrequent occurrences where the Mets do have success against Nola, not only are you getting a low-owned team that's doing well, but around a quarter of the field is also essentially losing their pitcher and not getting points from their pitcher. So it's a really powerful stack to get to, even though it's not going to work out all that frequently. Number 2, the Baltimore Orioles, 8% projected ownership, 8% chance of being the top scoring stack. They've been underwhelming offensively so far this year with an 87 WRC+. They do have some solid hitters in their lineup, though, although it's not a particularly deep lineup. Guys like Cedric Mullins, Trey Mancini, Anthony Santander, Austin Hayes, Ryan Mountcastle, pretty solid, 1 through 5 in that order. And then you kind of can just hope to get lucky with guys towards the bottom if you need to save some salary. They're going up against Chris Archer, who has been injured frequently for the last few seasons. So far this year, a 21.2% strikeout percentage, lower than you typically expect from Archer. 4.89 xFIP, certainly not what you want to see if you're a Chris Archer fan, and 1.76 home runs allowed per 9 innings. The Orioles are in a pretty good spot tonight against Archer and the Twins. And number 1, the Detroit Tigers, another team that has been very underwhelming offensively so far this year with only an 87 WRC+, but they're projected for 8% aggregate ownership, a 9% chance of being the top scoring stack. They're facing Jose Urquidy tonight in Houston. Urquidy has a 4.63 xFIP, 15.1% strikeout percentage so far this season. And kind of similar to the Orioles, while the Tigers' overall offense has been just flat out bad this year, they do have some decent hitters when you look at their overall track record. Robbie Grossman, Javier Baez, Austin Meadows all have had success in the major leagues in the past. Spencer Torkelson, the former number 1 overall pick, is up in his rookie season. Jonathan Scope has had some success in the past. So it's not a totally horrible lineup for Detroit going up against Urquidy. Looking at the top 3 tournament pitchers, starting with number 3, going to the other side of that Tigers matchup, Jose Urquidy is $6,800. He's only projected for 6% ownership with a 9% chance of being the top scoring pitcher. I mentioned sort of the negatives about Urquidy when I was talking about the Tigers, but the positives for Urquidy are that he is facing this Tigers team that, while they do have some solid hitters based on previous seasons, overall, this team has really struggled this year with an 86 WRC+. They've struck out 24.9% of the time in the aggregate. So it's certainly a spot where Urquidy could have some success here as well. I like the fact that neither side is getting much ownership in tournaments. Number 2, Miles Michael is projected for 3% ownership with a 9% chance of being the top scoring pitcher. He's $9,600 tonight, pitching in San Francisco, the most favorable pitcher's park in baseball. The Giants have a 102 WRC+, so they have been slightly above average offensively this year. But Michaelis is off to a good start this year as well. 21.6% strikeout percentage and a 3.46 xFIP for the Cardinals right-hander. And number 1, Shane McClanahan, projected for about 12% ownership with about a 12% chance of being the top scoring pitcher on FanDuel. He is relatively expensive at $10,100, and he does have a pretty difficult matchup against the Seattle Mariners, who have a 112 WRC+ so far this season. But McClanahan enters this game with a 39.3% strikeout percentage and a 1.59 xFIP. He's been absolutely fantastic for Tampa Bay so far this season. The Mariners only have a 3.3 implied run total as well. So to recap, the top 3 tournament stacks on FanDuel: number 3, the New York Mets; number 2, the Baltimore Orioles; and number 1, the Detroit Tigers. And the top 3 tournament pitchers: number 3, Jose Urquidy; number 2, Miles Michaelis; and number 1, Shane McClanahan.